need someone to talk to and you don't know what to do, call us 214-4400 when you're feeling all alone and they turn their back on you. Call us 214-4400. Call us 214-4400. Call us 214-4400. Call us.
Welcome to the Kind Counseling Podcast. This is your host, Dania Roberts. We got a brand new episode for you guys today. And we got a special guest who's actually going to co-host with us, man. This is a special time, man. First time ever in Kind Counseling Podcast history. Mr. Alsu. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome.
Good. So let me tell you all a little bit about Mr. Sue before we jump into some current events. All right. He's a chief petty officer who's a father of 3, Madison 15, Allison 13, and Delon 10, and a dedicated husband to Kellyanne and an active duty service member of 19 years in the Navy.
Woo!
All right. So he's done 8 deployments for the U.S. Navy on USS Cole, USS Gunstone Hall, and USS Baton. All right. And his accomplishments in the service range from numerous sea service medals to 5 Navy and Marine Corps Meritorious Service Achievement Medals, while supervising numerous junior sailors on all aspects of logistics, as his main job is Logistics Specialist Chief Petty Officer. He has served during Operation Freedom, Operation Golden Shield, and Operation WATC, which is West African Terrorism Counter Reaction. So we got a real one here, y'all, a real one.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah,
Welcome
man.
to the Kind Podcast.
And of course, we have the beautiful Dania Roberts co-hosting here today as well. We're missing our 2 guys today, but God bless them. Hope they're doing well. So let's jump into some current events real quick before we talk about the military. All right. So y'all heard about Dave Chappelle getting attacked on stage, right? By a man with a gun and a knife. Y'all heard about that?
It was fake though.
It was fake?
Was it?
The gun and the knife was fake.
Oh, the gun. Oh, I thought you meant that attack.
Both of them was fake.
They said the gun and the knife were replicas.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
what was the point of all of that? Him rushing to him on the stage?
I guess one of the stories I read was something about him trying to gain attention for his sick mom or something like that. I don't know, but he had to be unstable some way.
What? That's crazy.
So I was wondering if that's the Will Smith effect, where people just gonna be rushing the stage now, like I don't know.
No, I don't think anybody's gonna do that. Because I don't know if you guys saw, but they dislocated his arm.
Yeah, that
he
was
was
pretty
tore
bad.
up.
Whole arm was dislocated.
It was like,
I was like,
it was like,
everybody gonna think twice about rushing a comedian on stage going forward. You're not gonna do that again.
Yeah, he caught the beat down. Did you see the video? Like,
Yeah, it was like 20 people.
Yeah.
They lumped him up.
every comedian don't roll like Dave Chappelle though. So I'm just saying, where you got 20 people
Actually,
backing him up.
Tony Rock. But Tony Rock was at a comedy show shortly after that whole incident happened with Will and Chris, and he let the crowd know. He was like, don't run up on this stage, use words, strong words, and let the crowd know, don't run up on this stage because it's not gonna go down how it went down with my brother.
Well, not every comedian is to play with either, right? Like some of these guys are not from their backgrounds are crazy too. So be careful on who you trying to pull that with.
That's right.
So you guys think like certain jokes are off limits now? Like you can't joke about certain people or populations or whatever?
I mean, everybody's so sensitive, right? Everybody's so sensitive about joking and just taking things for what it is. They're comedians. What do you want them to joke about then?
Right.
They can't speak about what's current times or speak to things that are going on. Then what are they supposed to sit up there and say? Knock knock.
Right.
That's
right.
true. That's true. That's true.
I agree. I would have to agree with that because it's like they're making light of things that are happening, you know, stuff that's going on in the world, situation. They're making light of people, they're making light of social events and all that kind of stuff. So it's all this censorship. It's like you have to walk on eggshells to say anything nowadays. And I think it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness, right? Where you feel like you can't say anything about anyone or any situation, otherwise you're going to be labeled in some way. You know, what are they supposed to joke about? They're comedians, they're making jokes. Everybody is subject to be joked about.
Well, the other thing is if you're not cool with the commentary, then don't go. If that's the case, don't go. Why are you going to the show? Like Dave Chappelle said that in one of his stand-ups. Like, you're making comments about things that I've said in my shows, but have you even been to my show? Or you just heard it somewhere or read it somewhere, right?
Right.
I mean, if that's
but I
the
guess
case,
the other thing is maybe they don't know what the content is going to be, right? What the comedians are going to joke about. So
why buy a ticket?
That's true too. they joke about everything. I mean, they joke about fat people, they joke about skinny people, they joke about straight people, they joke about gay people. I mean, anybody is subject. So if you don't like the kind of comedy that particular person does, then don't go to their show.
Well, I think like with the Chris Rock situation, that might be a little different, right? Because nobody knew, like, people didn't come there to see Chris Rock. They came to award shows. So what he might said may have came across however to some people. But if you're buying a ticket to go see that person, you have to know what their content contains.
Right. That's true too. That's true too. And Chris Rock is a comedian. And in the past, all these award shows, I feel like they've always had like jokes written for the host and stuff like that. So for Will Smith to do something like that was the most bizarre thing. Can we talk about that for a little bit? That was so bizarre. For the longest time, I was like, that's not for real.
I thought it was fake.
Yeah, I was like, that's fake. He didn't just walk up there and just slap him. Because to me, the slap didn't even look real.
Yeah, I thought it was staged.
Yeah, I'm like, what would possess him? He probably really he wanted to slap somebody else. Or he slapped Chris.
This is a mental health show. We can't condone domestic violence.
I'm just saying. You want to slap somebody else.
He had somewhere to direct his anger.
Right. Well, Dania, let me ask you then, right? So as a woman, right, if that, oh God, I'm putting myself in a box here. All right. So if a man, if we had a show, right, and a man does that, I mean a comedian or the host or whoever, what would you want your husband to do?
Definitely not that, I don't think. Definitely like that, because first of all, to me, the joke that he made about Jada wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
You know, for him to say, looking forward to seeing you in G.I. Jane. I mean, to me, that was almost kind of like a compliment, almost like she's fierce, she's bad, she can play G.I. Jane. So to me, the joke was not, it didn't, that slap didn't warrant, you know, the joke didn't warrant the slap, rather.
But even if they wanted it, even if they wanted the slap, they could have handled it later.
Let's say he called her, right, let's say he called her out of her name, right? Called her some word or something like that. Then I think that's something that maybe should be handled afterwards, but not at an award show, national TV. For me, the other thing was two Black men, you know, it just wasn't a good look all around. It just was not a good look. And from what I understand, they're friends.
Well, you got to read the room. I don't think Will Smith read the room.
What you mean?
Yeah.
That's not the proper environment for you to act that way. If you had an issue, then you could have discussed that in private. We could have found out later on TMZ, hey, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock backstage, and nobody would have, it wouldn't have had the consequences that it had.
That's true. That's true.
I mean,
that's a good point.
He didn't read the room, and I think he definitely put a bad taste in people's mouth for him. Now he's losing a lot of stuff. You know, his shows are being pulled. Bel Air is probably not coming back. So all of these because you did those actions in the wrong environment. Now, I'm not condoning what he did, but if you were gonna do that, then you should have waited till you got backstage, or waited till you saw him at the after party. They all go to every single after party.
Right. That's
true. Turn to his wife and say, "Don't worry, babe, I got him later."
Okay,
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Kind of it.
something to that effect. Yeah,
True.
definitely, but not the way that was done. That was just like that was crazy. I couldn't believe what I was watching. But
Yeah, man. So
he's Will Smith.
well, I don't know if he's Will Smith anymore, but I mean,
Right. You ain't getting jiggy with it no more.
right,
Right?
exactly.
Crazy.
Right,
Mm-mm.
exactly. So you guys obviously heard also that Kevin Samuels died I think 2 days ago, right? Yesterday or the day
I don't know
before.
who that is.
Okay.
I've been no, I'm serious. I'm so serious.
All right, so
I've
okay,
been
so let me
hearing
tell you who he is.
about this, but I have no idea who this man is.
All right, so
Really?
I'll tell you who he is.
No.
He's a self-proclaimed relationship guru and life consultant. Apparently, he charged 10 grand per consultation. Right? He has 1.5 million YouTube subscribers, and allegedly 90% of them are men.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? So he's become he became a polarizing figure because of not necessarily what he said, but how he said it. Right?
Okay.
And you know, he made a lot of references to women. I forgot the term that he used. Alan, you remember the term he used?
Called the one female a linebacker. No, was it linebacker or running backer? Said she can hit
No. He was saying
power
like
high.
you don't have some values. What the thing is? Some value he says. Anyway, I'm
Well, he
drawing a blank.
talks about high value men,
Yes, right.
and yeah, he talks about like men being of high value, which
Meaning what?
I think his criteria for men of high value is you pretty much have a network. You're worth something to other men in and around whatever field you're in. You're making a certain amount of money.
Okay.
So that was
Now,
his.
I just have a question. Who was his audience? Was he like speaking to black men? Is he talking to celebrities or
So he was
like
he started out, when I looked back at his videos, he started out talking to black men. But what he realized really quick was he wasn't getting any he wasn't getting any trend. He wasn't going anywhere telling black men how they should be and how they should act.
Okay.
So then he switched it up to black women, and you could watch his content change over time. I think he came with the extreme content as he realized that extreme content was what was getting him views, which of course equates to money. So his extreme content is what started becoming viral or being picked up or being consumed a lot. So I think he stayed on that path. Now the things he was saying, like I was saying before, his delivery I think was kind of crazy, but I think he was doing that just because he knew that's what was going to get him the clicks. But his underlying, some of his underlying messages though, I understood where he was coming from, but sometimes his delivery was like, all right, man, chill.
Right.
Can y'all give me an example? Because like I said, I've never heard of him.
Well, this morning, actually, I watched a video for the first time. one of his last video actually. And
you got to go to this old stuff.
Oh, okay. Because his one of my clients was telling me about him, and you know, we all talked about him. But he was talking about women party of one, like the accomplished women who got the PhDs and making money, but at the same time they lonely.
Buy a dog and die alone. That was one of his thing.
Okay.
Right. So he was talking about those women that walk around like, you know, acting like they got it all together, but they can't find a man, you know. So obviously that's gonna be offensive now these days because a lot of women are doing that. You know what I mean? So I think like Alan said, like he just, you know, he has a way of riling people up by saying things where, you know, that are offensive. But some of it is actually true though, if you actually listen to what he's saying.
Okay.
Well, one of his things that he did say that I do kind of agree with is talking about financial stuff, right? So a woman statistically doesn't make as much, right? Unfortunately, right? They don't make as much even in the field as men, right? So the long game, right? Is what happens when you get older. He talks about that a lot. If you don't have that bond where it's a man and a woman, both you bringing in that income that might equate to 150, 160, right? that could possibly carry you through life. What happens when it's just you? Is that going to carry you past 50, 60, 70, 80? Or are you going to end up somewhere where somebody else is trying to take care of you, right? We talk the independent stuff, but then you still have to rely later on a man-made system to take care of you. And he also was talking about, you know, when it comes to the workforce, a lot of women don't go into certain fields, right? That do make those higher earning jobs when you talk about engineering, things like that, because they just not interested in it. It's not that they can't, that's not really their interest.
Right.
So, but his delivery,
that doesn't sound so bad to me.
Well, the problem is his delivery, right? His delivery is harsh,
right?
And people don't like hearing harshness. So I think that's where it kind of goes over. What he's trying to actually say goes over people's heads because of the way
he's saying it,
delivering it, right? It's too harsh, it's too real, it's too in your face, right?
Oh, I'm gonna have to Google him.
Well, my wife she doesn't like him much either. So
she doesn't like him. Okay, I'm gonna have to check him out because
the delivery. That's why she doesn't like him.
Some of the things she was like, she got, but then she was like, yeah, I don't like the way that he's kind of, and I think that was where a lot of the Black women were having issues with it. It's like it seemed like you're just attacking Black women, you know what I mean? And I could see how that it came across as that, but then that's his audience,
right? Exactly.
So,
he probably got a bad relationship with his mama.
That was said before, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good." And then it was saying that, you know, he was gay and all this other stuff, and he's got 2 failed marriages. But he said that. He said, "I got 2 failed marriages, and I've learned from that. That's what I'm trying to help y'all." You know what I mean?
Okay.
So there's a lot. There's a lot being said. But again, at the end of the day, he's monetizing, right?
Right. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Right. So that was my whole take on it is he's doing this for money. So of course he has to go for, it's like the Seinfeld show, right? I mean, not Seinfeld, Jerry Springer, right? He's monetizing on people fighting on stage. The more people fight, the more crap you have, the more people are going to tune in. Right. Because drama. If you just sitting there just giving out great advice, which he started off doing.
Nobody wants to hear that.
That's really a shame, man. That's really a shame.
It is. That's terrible. We're wired for that drama.
It's like you had to stir people up, man. Huh?
We love it though, because that's how he started getting popular.
No, I'm saying it's a shame that's how he got popular, by having to, you know, stir stuff up. That's what I'm saying.
Well, he got popular when the first video that made him really hit was when he told the female that she looks like she comes out of the power eye. And that went like super viral. And I was like,
I can't.
I was like, yo, he's wilding. He was like, she was saying like she wanted all these things, you know, I want to have a man that makes all this money and I want to live this life and all that stuff. And he was like, you look like you're coming out the power eye. You really think you could, you know what I mean, get that?
Oh my goodness.
And that was the advice he gave her?
That's what he told her. Well, his biggest thing is, what do you want, right? Like, you know, people want these things, but they don't realize, like, unfortunately, are you really qualified to have that? You know what I mean? And that's the reality of life.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And what makes him the expert?
Well,
I don't think anything makes him an expert at all. I think he was, like I said, he's monetizing. So he was doing that for content for people to click on. I don't think I mean, people don't even listen to experts.
well, exactly. Yeah, but right, exactly.
The experts tell people stuff and they run to whoever is making the best comment. So.
I mean, I don't think you also have to be I don't think you have to be an expert to have common sense, though. And and a lot of times with male-female relationships, a lot of it is just common sense. But you know, but people like try to complicate it and twist it around and all that. Where men got basic needs, women got basic needs. If you cut to the chase with it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
I think it's
okay. So he died at what?
He what?
Heart attack.
I said. So he died at what?
He's dead. The internet went crazy.
Why?
Because of his content and everything, and everybody's like, well, you know, there's one side that's like, good, he's gone, and I don't think that's anyone, no matter what they've done. I don't think somebody dying is something you should praise.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Like, get him out of here anyway. You know what I mean? And that's what made the internet kind of stir up.
Okay.
I gotta go Google him after this.
All right. So lastly, it's Mother's Day weekend, right? So we want to wish all the women out there, the mothers, the grandmothers, aunties, everybody that help in the process. I got kids, step kids,
Foster.
cousins, foster kids, every kind of kid. We just want to applaud y'all, appreciate y'all. But I wasn't Rite Aid yesterday. Yeah, I wasn't Rite Aid yesterday, and there was this dude with cards in his hand, Mother's Day cards, and he was telling the whole place, "How come I don't get appreciated on Father's Day? How come women get, you know?" And I guess I was wondering, why is it that like you, if you try to get restaurant reservations, you can't even get that for Mother's Day. You know, how come women are so celebrated and men get, like, you know, like Chris Rock said, the biggest piece of chicken? That's about it, right? How come that happens?
I'll tell y'all why.
Tell us.
There's a little saying that goes, father maybe, mother always.
Is that
That's
how it
why.
goes?
What does that mean?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
No,
So
that's how it is. That's how it is.
No, something to that effect. Something to that effect. Or
I know what you
father
mean, though.
sometimes,
what
mother
you mean.
always. Right. So that's the gist of it. And of course, I've said it before and I voiced it. I don't think it's right. I think the fathers that are holding it down should be celebrated and celebrated in the same way. But you find that it's fathers that more often than not will walk away than mothers. So
Is
that's
that
why you
accurate,
can
though?
easily.
Oh gosh, here we
I
go.
think at one time it was.
More
I think at
women-
one time
More women file for divorce than men.
Whoa.
that may be true, but we're not talking about marriage. We're talking about parenting, right? So we're talking about Mother's Day and Father's Day, right? So that's in reference to the children. So
Right.
usually
Well,
you find single mother homes.
Right. I think that's just kind of a nature thing, right? Because women are nurturers, right?
Yeah. And we carry them.
We go out there and we go
carry
grab all the stuff. Yeah. And I don't think fathers aren't appreciated on Father's Day. I think there's a lot of fathers out there that are appreciated on Father's Day. I just think we kind of just don't look at it the same way they do. Like, women love the cards and the flowers and all that stuff. Like, you give me a card and some flowers, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that?
How do you like to
honest, man?
So what you want
Day?
for Father's Day, man?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't want no tie.
With socks?
Yeah, like
Socks.
Most men just want to be quiet and watch the game, right?
that's it. I actually read a meme earlier, and this female was just posting, single female. She said, the way I shoot my shot is I send him some wings at the bar.
Right.
Everybody went crazy, like,
right, because it's true.
Right.
But
That's
y'all
what I'm saying.
appreciate.
Right.
That's what I'm saying for us. Like, and I think men are appreciated. It's just different. Like, women love the same thing with Valentine's Day. Women love the cards and the flowers, the teddy bears, all that stuff, right?
That's true too. And the other thing too is that I think the restaurants get so booked is because a lot of people give in their mothers a day off from cooking. Whereas, and we love to eat and all of that good stuff. But the other thing is that on Father's Day, the restaurants don't get so easily booked because men are probably getting a nice home cooked meal because that's what y'all want anyway. You know, so because that's already how I'm thinking, right? I'm like, on Father's Day, okay, I'm gonna make a nice home cooked meal. Like, we're not thinking about going out in that regard. But yeah, so
well, I mean,
that's what it is.
At the end of the day, they're gonna sell what's gonna sell. And they know Mother's Day, this is what's gonna sell. Here you go.
That's true.
Absolutely.
This is Fred Charles. You're listening to the Kind Counseling Podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. Now back to our show.
It's all money based.
Well, I hear you, man. So all right. So we're gonna segue into Chief Petty Officer Sue. First of all, what's a chief petty officer? Because I was like, you're the chief person that's petty? Like, what's that mean, man? Tell the audience. What's that mean, man? I know, what's that mean?
What does a chief petty officer mean?
Yeah. What's that mean?
Well, it's just a rank. So you have, as you go through the ranks, you know, it goes from E1 to E8, E9. E10 is the MCPON, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. So it's just a ranking system. So when you get to E4, you become a petty officer, right? petty officer third class. Then you go up, the next step will be petty officer second class. The next step will be petty officer first class. So then above that will be the chief petty officer. Then you go to senior chief petty officer, and then master chief. It's just a rank system of how it's set up. The difference is the Navy is the only branch that when you go from E6 to E7, you go through a whole entire what we call is a season. So you go from, it's a big deal for you to go from a petty officer to a chief petty officer. You do a whole big shebang. You go through training, the other chiefs train you, then you get pretty much inducted into what we call the chief's mess.
Okay.
Once you're in the chief's mess, the outlook on it is once you're a chief, right? Every chief takes care of each other. So you could go to any chief and ask them for help on any ship or any command. Vice versa when it comes senior chief. It's just it becomes more like a brotherhood type deal. So once you become like chief and you move on up, and we switch our uniforms and everything, we start wearing khakis like some of the officers do. The history goes back a long way when they created the first chief. And the reason they did that was they wanted somebody that was enlisted, that could guide officers, but were also very knowledgeable in their job field, right? So they say chiefs not just train junior sailors, but we train junior officers, right? We're that person that's supposed to have, they call us the SMEs, the subject matter expert. You're the one that the captain is supposed to turn to and say, hey, how am I supposed to do this? And then you're still the one that's supposed to be training all your junior guys too and making sure that they're following the right path.
Really?
So
you're an important guy.
Well, I won't say I am an important guy. The chief petty officer is an important figure in the United States military.
All right. So okay. So tell us a little bit, man. How
there's also a saying. They said if you want to know something, there's a saying that people say, if you want to know something, ask the chief.
I got you.
All right now.
So how did you exactly get involved in the military? Like what? Tell us a little bit about that.
What's funny about that is it was a phone call. It was just a random phone call. I was never thinking about joining the Navy. I was never really focused on anything like that. I think I was just having a bad day in Brooklyn one day, and they just happened to call that day, and I happened to answer. And then she was like, you ever thought about, and I'm like, I ain't doing nothing else. And, everything else that was going on around here was just kind of like, this environment wasn't really the environment I could see myself sustaining or being in for a long period of time. So it was just odd that she just happened to call that day. And I tell people all that, her name was ET1 Moore. That was my recruiter. She called me and she was like, hey, you ever thought about joining the Navy? And I was like, no.
Wow. How old are you?
At that, I don't think I was even 20 yet, because when I joined, I was 20. So I was probably like 19, because I was in the delayed entry program for approximately a year.
Okay.
So
how did they get the number?
Well, I learned that too after I worked at a recruiting district in Arizona. So once you are in high school and you start applying for college, or what you call is like selective service, as a junior in high school, they send these lists to the recruiting offices. You get full lists from high schools, full lists from colleges, and that's how recruiters ping you on seeing, if you want to join or don't want to join. So they just what they call is like a cold call, just cold calling, and she just happened to have somebody pick up.
Right. Okay. Wow.
So you, I mean, like, how did you see the military, like, before you got that call? Like, was that even something you had thought about?
It was not on my radar at all. So like it wasn't something that I was like, maybe I should do this, until I got that call. And then I started looking in. Then I started, all right, let me see what this is about. I need more information. What do you have? Jobs, benefits, all that. And I think that kind of swayed me also, because, I wasn't, because at the time I was going to Catherine Gibbs. So I was going to school, but I wasn't really going to school. I wasn't taking it serious. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go to school right now. You know what I mean?
All right.
So the pros and the cons, I sat down and did my pros and my cons, and the pros outweighed the cons.
Wow. So you weren't concerned at all about leaving home, possibly, with the deployments and stuff like that? You weren't concerned about any of that when you were thinking about it?
I mean, I was concerned about leaving home, but I think I was more worried about just getting out of my environment, not necessarily home, because home was never the issue, right? Home was always pretty straight. Family has always been pretty straight. Is once you walk out your home, right?
Okay.
So I think my thing was just watching the environment that was around me at the time, you know, things that were just happening with people, you know, either getting hurt or going to jail or getting involved in stuff they shouldn't have been involved in. And at that time, I didn't see an out. Even though I wanted an out, I didn't see an out. So when the out, when it came to me, you know, and I think, man, that's crazy how it happened too. Cause I think that day, like somebody had gotten hurt. Mistaken. So when the opportunity arose, I just kind of jumped on it because I'm like, that's crazy how that happened, right? Because you know, things happen. I don't say things happen, but you know. So when the opportunity arose, I just thought that was a sign that I needed to jump on it. I mean, because I couldn't think myself another way out of that environment, and I didn't want to be in that environment, right? Okay. So they said the jump is the hardest thing, right? Like, you know, to actually make that jump, right? That's the hardest thing. But once you do, the landing is normally soft, but that jump is hard, right? So I just took the jump, took a leap of faith.
Wow.
So what what was the biggest adjustment for you when you got to, I guess, boot camp? You went first, right?
Yeah, I went to boot camp.
So what was like the biggest adjustment for you?
Boot
camp wasn't that hard for me. I actually gained weight in boot camp. I think the hardest adjustment was just like, I don't know, I already was like, some of the things they were trying to teach everybody, like, yo, wake up, make your bed, do all that. I'm like, yo, my mom's already make me do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so it's not how it is in the movies when you see like war movies or whatever, how these young men have so much trouble adjusting at boot camp with the guards that's yelling at them and stuff.
Well, some people do, right? But they don't yell at everybody, right?
Okay.
So, you know, it just depends on most of the time, the people that get yelled at need to get yelled at. Other times,
so do they really call y'all maggots and stuff?
They call you worse than that. They used to take. Yeah, I ain't gonna get into all that. They can call you whatever they want to call you, but yeah, they go through your mail, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Use it against you. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Wow.
It's boot camp, man. Like the entire goal in boot camp, right, is to make you conform to structure, right? That's literally the whole thing, like folding your clothes a certain way or doing this a certain way. Is for you to learn how to follow instructions to a T. All right. Right. And when the time comes down for you to follow the instructions to a T, even in the military, everything we do is an instruction that tells you how to do it.
That's a good point.
So the point of boot camp is just to get you out of the mindset that you can just make a decision you want to make and you have to follow the instruction, right? These instructions are in place for you to perform a certain way, for you to act a certain way, and for you to be a certain way. That's really the whole thing. The hardest part is people getting accustomed to that. You know what I mean? And some people don't get up and make their beds every morning. Okay. That's our thing. Some people don't eat 3 meals a day, and you got to eat 3 meals a day. And some people sit down and they want to, you know, you sit down and like one of the things in boot camp is, you know, you don't talk when you eat, right? Really? You eat. Wow. Because the thing is, what are you talking about? You're here to eat. So you eat and you keep it moving.
So what happens if you talk while you eat?
Well, then you get called maggots and get yelled at.
But why? Why is that? Why can't you guys talk to each other?
Because you're not here to talk. You're here to eat.
Y'all can't talk and eat at the same time?
I mean, you can, but that's not what the instruction tells you to do. That's the thing. Like the whole point is to follow. The whole point is to get you to follow instructions to a T. And that's the entire boot camp thing, is just for you to follow what the instruction is. And some people have a hard time with that. Some people can't follow basic instructions like get up a certain time, go to sleep a certain time. You know, that's difficult for some people to conform to. Shine your boots, fold your clothes, you know, wash your clothes at certain, you know, do what you got to do.
So you fell in line.
I didn't have no issue. I'm like 3 meals I'm eating. I don't need to talk to y'all anyway. Like, it ain't bother me none. I think the hardest part I had was I want to say was probably marching.
Why is that?
because when you're marching in formation, like you're really close and you got to keep in step. That's just in boot camp. Like you learn it, but
Right.
you know, you got to keep in step and turn in a certain way and turning back, and you know what I mean. I think that was probably one of my biggest weaknesses when I was in boot camp. But you know, after the being in shape stuff didn't really bother me because I was super skinny when I got there. So I was like, I put on weight in boot camp, like eating and working out. I was like, oh, cool. I think I left boot camp like 20 pounds heavier.
Wow, 20?
Yeah, I gained when I came out of boot camp, I was pretty working out like crazy. And then you not only work out, but then during the day you get worked out also. So
Right.
I got you. Okay.
and then it's another thing people don't understand when it comes down to some of the stuff you do see on TV, which is normally crap. It's never really a personal thing. Most of the time when you get in trouble, everybody gets in trouble. It doesn't matter what one person does. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, so-and-so did this, everybody get it. You know what I mean? Because you guys are supposed to be a team. And if one person on that team is not functioning right, the whole team get it. You know what I mean?
That sounds like football. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So you start gaining that, well, I don't want to mess up either for, you know, my division to get in trouble. You know what I mean? Right. I think it becomes more of a camaraderie thing. And they do that on purpose because towards the end of it, it becomes more the division against the RDCs. And they love that. They love when you guys are monitoring yourself and you pushing them out the door. Like, we got it, we'll take care of it. You know what I mean? That's when they know all right, we got them where we need them to go. They're doing, you know, they're monitoring themselves, they take care of themselves, they handling stuff themselves, you know what I'm saying? And that's the end game. Okay. You know what I mean? For you to walk out of there as one unit, you know what I mean? Understanding that the picture is the team and not yourself. So.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
So when
that's what it boils down to in any service, right? Because when you get out into these areas that you're in, and like for us on a ship, like, we got to learn how to fight fires. We got to learn how to do everything because ain't no police coming, ain't no fire department coming. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to rely on each other. You know, once you pull away from that pair, that's really all you got.
So you remember the first time you went out to sea? You remember the first time on a ship?
I think I remember the first time I got sick.
Okay, you want to share?
Well, so, you know, the ships move around. It depends on the ship too, but they move around. Once you get in bad weather, they shake around a lot. Some people take Dramamine and like seasick pills. I didn't take it. I never took it.
All right.
And we hit some really bad weather. I remember that like clearly. I think I'd been there for like maybe 4 months. Fresh on the ship, maybe 4 months, and we went out and it was bad. I mean, it was bad. Stuff falling everywhere. You could literally walk on the wall, like walk on the side of the walls. Like it was like bad. Oh, wow. And I couldn't hold anything down. I couldn't even drink water, nothing. I was just throwing up.
Wow.
It was rough. But that doesn't happen. I mean, it depends on the person too. Some people don't get seasick at all. I'm kind of like that now. Like, it don't bother me. I just get sleepy.
Okay. Okay.
It's rough though. When you're on that water, depending on the ship, it gets rough. But I do remember that. Like, I remember being sick and I was like, man, I don't know if I could do this. At that point, I was like,
kind of scary though. I gotta tell you.
What, being on a ship?
When the water is, you know, unstable, that there's no element of fear there when that starts to happen.
Like fear of the ship, like something happens to the ship.
Yeah.
You know, Titanic.
Right.
You know.
not even Titanic, but you know, like the ship capsizing or something. I mean, I don't know.
When the last time you heard of a U.S. Navy ship sinking?
Yeah, but you don't know that when you first joined.
I haven't, but I'm not really on top of that.
But they go through that when you're in boot camp. They teach you about buoyancy, and you start understanding how does this big metal thing float. Right? They teach you about buoyancy, like you know, because ships have water in them. Like the water is going through it, so they float or whatever. They teach you about all that. They fill up tanks over here, fill up a tank over there. They have to balance it out. So when you get fuel, because you know the ship, if you put fuel on one side, the ship could turn like this. So they're constantly balancing your your fluid level, whether it's fuel or water, so the ship could stay buoyant. So they teach you this stuff. So when you walk on there, I don't think you really walk on board.
So you have that knowledge. See, I don't have that knowledge. So to me, it's like,
And then when you go to a ship, you don't just show up to the ship and then they're like, all right, you're here. You know what I mean? They put you through in-doc, they teach you certain things, and they put you to basic damage control training before you even like go to your divisions, or you know what I mean? So they give you basic training to, hey, this is what happens. God forbid if something goes crazy wrong. You know what I mean? This is how you could possibly, you know, like we have breathing apparatuses. You have to learn how to use those. In case it's a fire, you put this on so you can get out. You know what I mean? So they train you that normally within the first few weeks of checking on board any vessel.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like good
I don't
stuff.
think it was, I don't think it's necessarily a fear. I mean, I'm not the greatest swimmer. I can swim, but I'm not the greatest swimmer. So I never got too close to the lifelines. I kind of chill. Like I'm not getting, because you go over the side now, that's a whole different game.
I got
Right.
you.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, Dania, you got a question? I wanted to ask him something.
I do have a question. So I used to work for a community-based organization that serviced veterans. And I worked with a man who told me, two Vietnam vets at the time. And they told me, and I just want to know if you can speak to some of this. He said to me, don't ever allow your son to enter United States Armed Forces. So, because he just felt like Black men in particular were not respected, esteemed, not only during their service, but particularly after their service. So I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that's a Vietnam veteran, and the time he's speaking on could possibly agree with the time he was speaking on. I think a lot has changed with the military period. Like when it comes to even the way we're handling veterans, that's changed a lot. A lot of people don't know that. The VA used to be horrible. And it's not amazing now, but it's way better than it used to be. I know that for a fact because my wife uses the VA, and their service has gotten a lot better. I guess my outlook on is well, who's gonna join? Who's gonna do it then? I don't know. And then I do know esteemed officers in the military that are African American. We had I actually have his book. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the first Master Chief and the first officer that served together that were African American, they did that. They wrote a book about that. You had Master Chief Petty officers that are of color that are very successful. You have full-blown captains. One of the captains I work for, she was the third ranking officer on board the ship, Black female. When she said goes, it didn't, you know what I mean? Like she's one of the esteemed females. I know a Master Chief that retired and she's esteemed, you know what I mean? She still works for the military.
But I think
I guess it depends on. I guess my outlook on it is well, what's the option? Like if you have another option, right? If you have other options to be successful, by all means, take the options to be successful. Unfortunately, what we have in a lot of these urban communities is some people don't have other options. And this might be a great option to take because not only you can, and nobody says you have to do 19, 20 years like I've done. I've seen people come in and done 4, got their GI Bill, went to school, got degrees that they don't have any college debt. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Their time rolled out and they're good. And then they still get, I mean, my wife did that. She still gets veteran benefits and then she's rolled out and she's got a master's and doesn't owe anybody any money.
Okay. So I guess just piggybacking on what Dania was saying, I guess as a Black man in the military, did you feel like you were being treated differently? Like your experience?
I don't think I've actually personally experienced that. I know people that have ran into things like that, but I think that's the United States of America. I don't think that's necessarily the military, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think that's a problem throughout the United States. But my time in service, I mean, I never really saw anything that was blatant. You know what I mean? But you did run into individuals, and you ran into individuals like I remember. This guy that worked with us, like where he was from, his small town, he never saw a Black person. You know what I mean? So he wasn't, I would say he was just didn't know. Like he didn't know how certain things were, certain things. And then as time grew, he changed into certain, you know what I mean? Change, because you got to work side by side.
Right.
You know what I mean? And eventually, you know, as you work side by side, things rub off and things change. I honestly think the military is probably a little further ahead than society when it comes to certain things.
And what's that?
Well,
yeah.
So we have things in place where you can't do certain things, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no discrimination. I mean, it may happen, but you can be punished for that. So you can't go out there and be blatantly do something silly. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to, I remember talking about a lot of military members looking at some of these things that happens with even police officers. We don't necessarily understand it because our rules of engagement are different. You know what I mean? Like we deal with things a lot differently, and we deal with a lot of things in the house. Now, could it be better? Of course, the entire world could be better. Mm-hmm. But when I look at some of the issues that you see outside the military, I don't think we necessarily have them as rampant. I'm not saying we don't have them, right, but I don't think we have them as much as the outside world is, because it's whatever they say is what it is, right? It's like, let me just give you an example for COVID, right? When you have people debating whatever they want to do, whatever the case is, the military said, this is what it is, and this is what you're going to do. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to do it, then you don't need to be here. It's what you're going to do. You come on a military installation, you have to wear masks. It's not if, ands, or but. If you want to stay in the military, or be on a deployable unit, you have to be vaccinated. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a lot of, it's not really a lot of back and forth. But I'm going to say things do happen, right? Individuals are doing their own individual things. So you run into issues and cases with, you know, people doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. But as a whole, I think we kind of govern a lot of it pretty well.
So you're saying there's a lot of order instead of chaos, so to speak.
Right. Well, I mean, you've seen like we have even training about stuff. Like you can't just, I think you had one person like got in trouble for going to protesting in uniform. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Okay. When you had the whole January 6th thing happen, there had some service members that were there. Guess what? They can't do that either. So they got roped up in real quick. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then even when it comes to the commentary about things is the military is for the people. It doesn't matter whether they're on this side or on that side. Like, that's not our job. You know what I mean? Our job is not to really, now in your personal time, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but once you put on that uniform and you're in that uniform and you're acting as such, like you have to govern yourself as such. That's what you represent.
Okay.
So what happens if somebody challenges their protocols? Are they discharged, or they challenge an instruction, a directive? What happens to them?
Well, it depends. Like there's numerous forms of discipline, right? Like you could get written up, which is, you know, you write you up, you get enough of those, and you go to what we call is a DRB, which is a review board, where you go sit down in front of the chiefs and they ask you, you know, why you did this, whatever the case is. You can lose money. We call 45-45. You can be restricted to your vessel, where you can't go anywhere for 45 days. Sometimes you get longer than that. Half a month's pay, like you lose half a month's pay times 2. That's what we call it.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's numerous. You could get confined, like, you know, all of that.
Okay, so they don't discharge that easily then.
It depends on what it is. Now you have people that'll get discharged. If you have numerous occurrences, of course, eventually the Navy's just gonna be like, okay, bye. Or if you do something like completely heinous, yeah, they will discharge you. But more than likely, you're gonna get. So they won't just discharge you. Like most of the time, if it's something that is to the extent, you're gonna pay for that and be discharged.
Pay? How would you pay?
Well, it depends on what it is. Like, let's say you committed a murder while you're in the military. You're going to jail. You're going to lose all your money, and then you're going to be in the brig until you serve out your sentence. And then once your sentence is over, then you'll be discharged. Like, we're not lit. You know what I mean? We're not giving you to. And then military prison and civilian prison is 2 different things. So. Okay.
So now I do have a question. In terms of like from a mental health perspective, right? I do know that there are statistics that show like in the military there's more substance abuse and domestic violence, right? Than the civilian population. What might you attribute that
Is there more or is it more reported?
to? Okay, all
If
right.
it's
So
more reported, doesn't it mean it's happening more?
not necessarily. Well, I mean, that's a good question, but okay. So the statistics just they say that there's a higher rate in the military, right?
It's more
So
reported.
okay, fine. All right.
Why is it more reported?
All right.
If it's
So
happening?
It goes back to what I was saying before, right?
Yeah.
We have a code of conduct,
okay.
right? Like Joe Smo that's out there beating his wife, it's not an issue. Military dude that slaps his wife, she calls the command, there's an issue.
Okay.
Right?
But
Regardless
I'm confused.
Regardless if she gets let's say she doesn't call the cops, right? And she just calls his command, because this happens a lot. She could just call the command and then so-and-so has to answer to that to the military. So I say it's more reported because I think in the way we go about dealing with certain things is we put these tools out there for people to report things. Even when it comes down to a lot of other stuff, it's more reported, I believe, in the military. That's why the numbers are so high than it is in the civilian world.
I think domestic violence in general, it's like, I mean, so you're saying that because because that the person may know that there's going to be consequences that they're reported more. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but I guess
But then wouldn't that mean that it's happening more though? If it's more reported?
Not
So
necessarily.
why would it be reported?
No, well,
because the significant other in that position knows that she has more tools available for her to use. Whereas I think in the civilian world, there aren't as many tools available. Like she knows there's numerous tools that the military will provide to her and her family, or him or his family, you know, because it could go both ways. There's more tools available, and they go to, like, most spouses go to briefs, and most spouses have spoken about this stuff, and family support is there for spouses. So I think they have more resources, so you tend to hear about it more. Whereas Joe Schmo sitting somewhere that thinks if I call the cops, then what happens next? Then he goes away, then I don't have any income, you know what I mean? I don't have anything, so I might just sit here and take this and not ever report it, I guess is what I'm saying. So I don't think it's happening. I think it's happening at an even keel. Okay. I just think it's being reported more in the military because of the code of conduct.
All right. So I was thinking the opposite, meaning that the reason why it's higher could also be because it can be stressful. I guess that's where I was going with it, but you're making an interesting point though.
I think I'm confused about it. I'm not understanding what you guys are saying. So why would in the military somebody report something like that if it's not actually happening?
No. I'm not saying that it's not happening. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is we are getting more reports and more things are being told to the military than it is being told to the civilian world because of the resources that are available for that person that's in that position.
Okay.
So your numbers will I personally, and this is a personal thing, your numbers are going to be higher because of the resources that you're providing, where people feel more comfortable to come on forward and say these things because they know the support systems that are in place to help them. Hence, where I think in the civilian world, a lot of those support systems in place to help someone that may be going through domestic violence are not as, as tailored or as good, or they don't have the proper information, or they don't know a way how to get around this. Whereas the military will give them that support.
But I'm still confused though, because
go ahead.
If it's more reported in the military because people know more reported, but so are you saying that it's more reported, but it's not actually happening as much as it's reported?
No, that's not what he said.
Right. I'm saying the military numbers are higher than civilian numbers will be because more military people will report than civilians because of the support that they will get. I think it's even keel. I think it's also happening in the civilian aspect just as much. It's just not being reported because they don't have the resources to help them.
So Danya, meaning what he's saying is that, like, say, like a woman who is not, or like a couple who's not in the military, it might not be reported as often because what is the fallout of the man will go to jail, so or maybe it won't be believed, as opposed to in the military where there are actually actions that they can take. But
Okay.
but
So you
I
think
think
it's happening more in the, so Al, you think it's happening more in the civilian world,
I think it's even keel.
he
but
thinks
it's
it's the
just
same.
not reported as much in the civilian world.
Right.
But
Okay.
but all right. So I've also from some of the, I mean, I don't know a lot about military and mental health, but I was told that it's mental health issues can be underreported because of similar to I counsel a lot of police officers because that could be held against you.
I might say that might have been a thing maybe in 2003, 4 when I like first came in, where people just kind of try to deal with it. I don't think as much now. There's so much in place now. Like, I mean, the military's put a lot of, you have what we call DRCs. What is the exact term? Deployment resilient counselors, where you have a full-blown therapist that's on board the ship when you deploy.
Okay.
You have things in place where if you feel like sailors aren't coping, they take them off ships. They give them the, the help they need. But at the same time, it is something that's called readiness. Like, you have to be ready, and if you're not ready to be deployable, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, then eventually the Navy is gonna send you home. And there's people that have gotten medically retired because ailments or mental illness, and then there's some people that just go home. But I mean, there's so much stuff in place now, man. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
So experience has been pretty good then in the military.
I mean, it has its ups and its downs. You're gonna have your times where you're away from family and it sucks. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's the job. Like, I think that's the job. You out to sea and you haven't pulled in for port for 30 something days. You ain't seen land. You know what I mean? But that's the job. You can't pull in everywhere. You're out here doing the job.
What's the longest you've been deployed?
We did 11 months, but it was broken up though. So it was broken up. So we did like 6, came back, and then did more.
Right. So when you come back, then your children actually look different, don't they? A little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the job, right?
Taller. They got taller, right? Some people got taller.
Well, it's not even just them. Streets change, right?
Yeah.
So my first deployment, I came back and it was like, oh, new McDonald's. But then what doesn't, I guess my outlook on it was, when I did my first few deployments, what didn't change was people. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, I'm back. I done did all this stuff. Dang, bro, you still over there doing that? You know what I mean? So that was kind of my motivation on it too. Is like, you go see different places. It's a little different now because of everything that's going on everywhere. But when I first came in, I went to so many different countries, saw so many different things, learned so much stuff, engaged with so many different people. Like, I was actually enjoying it. Like, wow, man, I met somebody from this place, or I spoke to somebody from here. Like,
Okay.
But some people can't deal with that though either. Some people can't deal with being away from home. Some people can't deal with the fact that you can't. A lot of kids now are having a hard time because of the cell phone restrictions.
Wow.
Most ships now you can't use, like, once you get out, phones are off, internet's off.
Really?
Everything, and well, because everything that's going on, right?
Right.
So a lot of these systems are being hacked and using your Bluetooth to get through the other systems, using phones and apps and all, what I mean? All these things to get into military systems. So a lot of that's being cut off. Like, you can't access certain social media sites. You can't do certain things. You might just have email, and that might be on a good day. And that's really because of the temperature, everything that's going on. So you have to be mindful and okay with that. But some people can't deal with that, right? Not for somebody that's like this all day, every day, and then you take it away. Now they got mental health issues.
So while you're deployed, are you able
You
to
laughing? I'm serious. That's what happens.
No. I know you're right. Yeah, I see it all the time. You're right.
So while you're deployed, are you able to be in contact with your family or no?
Well, it depends. like you are, like we normally have email or whatever the case is, but sometimes you may not be able to for a period of time because of whatever's happening. You know, I might just be thinking like, yo, it's just Facebook Messenger, but okay, I'm using your Facebook Messenger now to mess with your Tomahawk systems. You know what I mean? Because that's what's happening. People are hacking in through these things and going through, like TikTok was banned from vessels, period.
Right. Okay.
And even because TikTok is a complete phishing app that sucks information out of whatever you add it to. Like if you put TikTok on your phone, they now have everything that's on your phone.
Oh, I'm about to take it off my phone now.
I think Trump a few years changed that when he like kicked them out of the US.
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy.
So
a lot of those things aren't used. So a lot of these kids that's coming in now are having a hard time adjusting to that. And I think that's where a lot of the not just that alone, the work is it could be rough, you know what I mean? But I think the hardest thing is people just adjusting. Like you're having a lot of issues with that, where some of these kids just can't adjust. They can't adjust to not living the way they were living to not living like this. And some are fine, some aren't. Just depends on the person. Some do fine. You got great. I met this kid the other day. He's like 19. Dude is like A1. I'm like, and
okay.
You know, so it just depends on the person. It also depends on.
All right. Well, 3 cheers for the U.S. Navy.
Hey,
yeah.
It's the best branch in the military.
Is it?
No, of course.
Of course, we got more planes in the Air Force, more tanks in the Army.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, here we go.
Hey, man, I'm just saying.
All right. I thought you all were supposed to be a united front.
That's a fact. I didn't make that up. That's a fact. You can look that up.
Oh man. Well, listen, man. Listen. You giving us a lot of information, man. I mean, I think that we work with a lot of single parents, single mothers, and who are also looking for options for their sons and even daughters. You know, so what would you say to those parents? You know, what would you say to them?
Well, I'm saying it's always an option, but I would do your research going into it to see what you're going to gain out of it. Make sure the job is fitting with the sailor. Sometimes you have that issue too, where, you know, sailors are jumping in and they're not picking jobs that suit their personalities. So that becomes a little hard. You know, like a kid that doesn't know anything about working with his hands. Now he's an engineer. He's not going to be successful. I would say do your research. Look into it, see how it could benefit. Pros and cons, like I did. There's always pros and cons of everything. You know what I mean? If there's no solution to your environment, like I said, I had at the time, I think it's a great option. If you're looking for schooling, paying for schooling is better than taking out thousands of dollars of loans. If you can't get, you know what I mean, a scholarship or something, it's definitely an option. It helps with structure. I think it does, but it has to be that personal too, right? So I think it has to definitely do with the individual. Is that individual strong enough to deal with that? Because you don't want it to backfire either. Put them in a situation they won't be able to be successful. But I mean, it's an option. I don't think it's a bad option. There's a lot of perks in the military, and it's getting a lot better. Now they have it. The retirement just changed now, where for me, it's like you got to do 20 to get anything. Now they switched it now, like you go in there with 4 years and you can still get money out of that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Switch that up. I think it just depends on the person. To be honest with you, I think it totally depends on the person. But it's not what people think it is. Like, I think people have this outlook on the military, like you go in there and then you're at war in Iraq. You know, I'm like,
right, exactly. Right.
Like, bro, the people that were on boots on ground is probably maybe 15 to 20% of the entire military force.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's interesting. So it just depends. You know what I mean? It just depends. There's a lot of options. And I know I just said like the Navy is the best branch, but I know the Air Force right now, their technology stuff is through the roof. Like they're going through I mean, these kids are going in there learning all kind of stuff. The Marines, their engineering programs are probably better than some of these colleges. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wow, really?
So,
Okay.
you know, they have what you call this? They have what's the name of it now? But I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, they have a program now where you could get certificates just for doing your job. Like you just log your hours, right? You log how many of our hours, like I worked on this for this many hours, you get a certificate for that just for doing your job that you got to do anyway. You just have to log the hours that you do. And they have that. They have skill bridge programs now for people that are transitioning out, where you could go get an internship while you're in for like the last 6 months. You go work for whatever company, and then they could decide if they want to hire you or not. Where it's at now, the amount of programs that it has now, I personally think is probably way better than it was when I first came in. You know, the amount of things that they have to offer people. So I mean, I think now they're giving away what 25,000 signing. Like you sign up, you get 25 racks right in your pocket. I'm like, I ain't get that. Can I go back? Give my time. You know what I mean? You got some kids that are getting. I know this one guy. He was a fire controlman, so he did a lot of mechanics and a lot of gun systems. He re-enlisted. They gave him like 80 grand. I'm like,
oh my God, wow, that's interesting.
Because of his field,
right?
You have some guys. Certain rates. It depends on your rate. Like a lot of nuclear guys or a lot of the electronics guys. Them guys come in the Navy, go to boot camp, and then they're in school for 2 years. You know what I mean? Before they even go to the fleet.
Really?
Just learning. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even if you want to go the other route, you go to the college route. You go to some of these college programs that the Army and the Navy are offering. I mean, it's pretty much damn near free schooling. And then, so I didn't know this. So as an officer, after you finish your original bachelor's, whatever, right, and you go out to the fleet and you're an officer, you can reapply for the Navy to send you back to school for your doctorates and all that. And then you just go to school.
Right.
And then when you finish school, when you finish school, then of course you got to pay them their time by taking the school skills that you learn and bringing it back to the fleet.
Right.
But yeah, there's people in school that are military. And then you have officer programs where you can come in as an active duty and then go officer programs where they'll pay you and send you to school. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to get your regular pay and your job is to go to school. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Until you get whatever degree and whatever. So, and now they got this whole space, whatever it's called now, they're giving out craziness. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, they going in. What's it called now? Space Command, whatever they call. Okay. Anyway, they sending people to school like crazy right now. So I would say do the research before jumping into it. But that's with anything, right? You should do your research before you jump into anything. And make sure that it's that individual.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, we've come to an end. And listen, I appreciate all the information you gave, man, and the insight.
Yeah.
This was good. This was good.
Yes, definitely. Very informative.
Did you
I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate y'all having me.
We have to have you back.
Yeah, we gotta have you back.
You know when? I'll come and help y'all out. Crack some more jokes about Kevin Samuels.
Right?
All right, man. So you be safe out there, man. And we'll talk.
All right, love to the family. Take care.
All right.
If I ever took a loss, I learned a lesson. I won't ever think I'm better than the next man. I've been down before to come up, I ain't stressing. Baby, I'm too busy.